Richmond's midfield grouping, it's been a sore point for all of 2025, even parts of 2024. So I want to take a quick look tonight on how we might be able to fix that, what some of the groups could look like in 2026, and just to get everyone's thoughts. But before we get stuck into it, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. We're 100 followers away from hitting 4,000. It'd be amazing to get there by the draft. But yeah, let's start taking a look at some midfield groups. Now, the first midfield group is probably the one that's going to be our go-to for the early part of the season, and maybe slightly varied. Now, I've resisted the temptation to go with the Taranto, Prestia, Hopper. I've gone with Taranto, Prestia, and Ross as the starting mids in Group 1, and I think that's something similar to what we'll roll with early phases of 2026. In all honesty, I do think that Ross will be replaced with Prestia. This is more what I'm hoping to see because, as we've spoken about, as much as Taranto and Hopper had great individual years, playing them together in the same part of the ground along with Prestia, it just doesn't quite work. Just from a speed perspective, it just doesn't help us. Opposition get to walk out of the centre square far too easily, and it's not helpful. And Ross does help counter that. Ross can also tag, which I think is a draw card too. But I think this is what will be what you would consider our go-to strategy for most games, and also including Jacob Hopper. But it's a bit vanilla, a bit bland, and it's not the future, but it's what we kind of know. And I guess that's where Uze and the coaching staff need to get a bit more comfortable outside and push outside the boundaries a little bit, outside the comfort zones, and give some responsibilities to some of the youngsters. But then we move to group number 2. So group number 2 looks a bit more dynamic, and I'm using Nankervis as the ruckman for all of them, so he's a mainstayer. But group number 2, when those guys are needing a rest from group number 1, you could swap in and have Hopper, who either started on the bench or was playing half forward. And I think that's going to be the vital part to this year, is having Taranto and Hopper at different parts of the ground to swap with each other. So we've got the experienced head and the good midfielder going in there, but they're going in there with a different set of teammates to help get some balance. So I've got Hopper, Lawler, and Houghton. Honestly, you'd love to see this one start to become a bit more predominant, even if you swap out Hopper for Taranto, and you got Taranto, Lawler, Houghton. That's a pretty good starting midfield. That would be something, as I think as supporters, we'd love to see, call it 55 to 60% of matches, understanding that we can't expect it too much. I guess what's going to be interesting is how much midfield minutes will Sam Lawler and Tash Houghton get in 2026. It does feel like, from all the interviews with like Sam Lonergan and people like that they do really, really value Lawler's forward craft. He's a tough matchup, good size, and his ball use inside the 50 and shots for goal is very, very good. And Tash Houghton, we know he's a bit of a freak up forward as well, but they definitely have value in the middle part of the ground. And I think we need to see their midfield minutes and CBAs increase. You'd love to see this one become a bit more predominant by about the halfway point of the year, but definitely in the early parts of the season, you still want to see splashes of this to be able to get a bit of a mix-up, to give them exposure, and to give ourselves a chance to actually get the ball moving forward with a bit of pace. So that's midfield group number 2. Midfield group number 3. So I've gone with Nankervis, Taranto. Josh Smiley gets some integration into there, and Kane McAuliffe, who I sometimes think about is the forgotten man, and even I'm guilty of it as well. And EJ will hate me for that. McAuliffe, if you got to remember that last year when he was playing in the seniors, he was only getting about 65 to 70% game time or time on ground, but he was still coming away with 18 to 20 disposals. And look, maybe it's not logical to suggest if he was playing 75 to 80%, does that mean he's going to get 25 touches a game? He might. He just works so hard and gets to the right spot, and opposition are too worried and focused on some of the other midfielders that he can kind of get off the chain a little bit and use his burst away from stoppage. His kicking inside 50 started to improve as the games went on. Finding his range for goal would be probably the next step to elevate himself a little bit. But above all else, and most importantly for Kane McAuliffe in 2026, it's getting on the park consistently. I really do think he's got good AFL qualities and can add to our midfield. I'd love to see him play 20 games in 2026. And I think he should be a really integral part of the midfield rotation. He's very much a diamond in the rough, and I think he's got something to add. And you'd love to see Josh Smiley going through there, which I think is inevitable. it's so great to see him smashing pre-season. He's dropped quite a bit of weight from what I understand. Really redefining his body. He's out there smashing out the running. I'm not saying that he's going to be able to play bulk midfield minutes straight away, but he will be playing through there 100%, and he will make a massive difference. So that's another variation of the midfield. But I think we can go with in games. That's not detrimental. I think there's some learnings. There's going to be some experience in there, but I think we need to, in these years where we're going to be down the bottom for a little bit, we need to get the exposure in and throw them into the deep end a little bit, and just see how they go. Midfield group number 4. So we were integrating Dion Prestia back in because, look, even though he's a bit older, he's still very smart footy IQ wise. He knows how to extract the ball. So if we get him with a Seth Campbell, or even you could swap that to a Tash Houghton, someone who's got some pace to help maybe cover bits and pieces where he may lack. And Sam Lawler, another bull who can explode from the stoppage. And I've done that particular pairing as well because I really think that someone like Sam Lawler can learn a shitload off Dion Prestia in what might be his final season as a player. And he's, as we've sort of all seen, he's essentially a coach on the ground, and that's been why he's signed for another year, to really pass on his knowledge. And the best way to do that is with real-time examples, in real-time setups, in games with these young kids. One out, him, Prestia, and Campbell, or Houghton, or whoever it might be, and he can sort of guide them and let them know where they need to be, what they need to do. Will it come off more often than not? Who knows? But as a learning experience and a way for these guys to get experience and exposure, it's important that we go down this path, and it's going to be a really important way that we have to utilize Dion Prestia. And Seth Campbell in the midfield, I don't know if I'm in the minority with this one, but I just think until we maybe bring in another midfielder that's got that genuine speed, I do think there is a need for Seth Campbell to step up into this role. We do need some extra pace. Tash Houghton adds pace. Kane McAuliffe adds some pace. I think Seth Campbell's the other missing piece of the puzzle. We did see it a couple of times last year, in 2025, sorry, and it worked really well. And either he was exiting stoppage with the ball, or he was able to actually shut down the opposition player who was trying to exit, which is sometimes equally as good. I think it's a natural progression for him. I know there'll be a lot of people that think he does better work at half forward. I think there's a way to find a blend between the two. Ideally, and the other reason why I'd love him in these stoppages and up around the ground more, we will be a much better play side if we can get Seth Campbell the ball 20 to 25 times most weeks, because he's got the speed to break away and get into space and open up the ground for us, and he's quite skillful and can open up the ground with his passing too. So I think it's a multifaceted benefit. And then Sam Lawler, again, my only thing that I would love to see more of him in 2026, I'd love to see him kick the footy more. His handballs are great. They're divine. They open up space. Very Shane Edwards-like. Love to see him kick it, though, because it's a beautiful kick of the football. Midfield group number 5. Now, this is dreaming big. This is what I think we would love to see at some point during the year. Maybe it's at the end of the year. I don't at all think it's something that we could sustainably do in 2026. But just to get a small glimpse into what the next 4 to 5 years could look like when these guys all go in there permanently, you would love to see Lawler, Smiley, and Houghton line up in the centre bounce and just see what happens, right? They'll be up against some experienced, really good players pretty much no matter which week we would try this in. But why not? What's there to lose? It's the perfect time to experiment with something like this and just see how the dynamic works, because the reality is Presti will be finished up in a year or two. Hopper and Taranto have got a little while left, but we have to get into a position where we're phasing them out into different spots. And this is the next generation taking over. These will be the guys that'll be pushing us towards finals as a midfield group. So let's see what it looks like for them now. Again, like I said, I don't expect that to happen very often. It would be nice to see it in some small spurts, just because why not? You've got the talented kids there, just do it. And all of these midfield groups haven't factored in who we take in the 2026, or in the draft this year. If you take a Dyson Sharp, a Sam Cumming, a Sullivan Roby, a Sam Grill, someone like that, they're players who can step into a midfield rotation potentially straight away. I think they can. I think all of those players would be capable enough, but you would have to pair them with like a Prestia, Taranto, and then one of the new guys. I don't think you would go a second-year player, first-year player, experienced. I don't know. You have to find the right mix, but those guys can play a role, and this is where setting ourselves up for some midfield depth for the future to come is very, very important. But there you go. There's some midfield groups. Let us know which midfield group you prefer. I feel like I know where it might land. But do you think we're going to play it safe to start with, or do you think we will just go one experience, two youth from the get-go and just roll with it and see what happens? Like in 2025, I can understand why we'd want to protect these youngsters for the first part of their career. And look, their second year is still a time where we should probably protect them, but we've got to gradually undo the bubble wrap a little bit, get them in there, get the exposure, and have a bit of fun with it and see where we land. I think as supporters, I think we would much rather see midfields like this, and if we lose games, so be it. But even change it within games. Let's not stick to just the Prestige Toronto hopper. If we're losing by 40 or 50 points in the third quarter, change it up, throw caution to the wind. That's what we want to see in 2026. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Which midfield group do you like the best? Is there another combination you'd like to see? Keen to hear all of your thoughts, and make sure you like and subscribe for more Richmond content. And until the next one, go Tigers.